The morning sun rose slowly over Fort Belvoir, painting the Virginia sky in soft shades of gold and lavender. Traffic hummed quietly along Route 1. Commuters heading into D.C., soldiers returning from early drills, and parents hustling kids to school. But amid the hum of ordinary life, one black SUV pulled to the side of the road, its hazard lights blinking. Inside sat Major General Maya Jefferson, a 46-year-old woman with the posture of someone who had spent decades commanding respect. Her hands rested calmly on the steering wheel, her uniform pressed perfectly, her medals gleaming faintly in the light. She had served 3 tours overseas, led humanitarian missions, and advised the Pentagon. Yet, that morning, she was just a woman pulled over by flashing red and blue lights. The police cruiser behind her screeched to a stop. A white officer, young and visibly agitated, leaped from his car, hand already on his gun. His voice barked to the megaphone, sharp and accusatory. Maya froze. Her training had taught her to de-escalate chaos in war zones. But here, in her own country, on her own soil, she was treated as an enemy. The officer shouted again, his hand now fully gripping the weapon. "Get out of the car. Now!" Her heart thudded. Her ID badge, military tags, and license all sat visible on the dashboard. But the officer's eyes weren't seeing them. They saw only her skin. When she stepped out slowly, he raised his gun. "You're not a soldier," he yelled, disbelief and prejudice tangled in his tone. "Take that uniform off. It's fake." In that moment, the silence of the morning broke. The quiet became a battlefield, and as Maya lifted her trembling hands, she realized that after 30 years of serving her country, she was now fighting a different kind of war, one that no rank could protect her from. Maya Jefferson had never imagined her life would look like this. From a childhood in Birmingham, Alabama, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table, to standing shoulder to shoulder with generals at the Pentagon. Her story had always been one of resilience. She grew up watching her mother scrub hospital floors at night, whispering to her, "Baby, education and strength, they can't take those from you." Maya believed that. She had studied, fought, and earned every ounce of her success. After graduating from West Point, one of the few black women in her class, Maya's career had been defined by relentless excellence. She led disaster relief units in Haiti, counseled soldiers through loss, and eventually rose to the rank of Major General, a title only a handful of black women in U.S. military history had ever achieved. She carried herself with quiet pride, aware that every room she entered carried unspoken questions. Did she really earn it? Or who did she know? But she ignored them. She had learned that dignity wasn't given. It was lived. That morning, Maya had been heading to a ceremony in D.C. to meet with the Joint Chiefs. Her schedule was tight, her uniform immaculate. When she saw flashing lights behind her, she had assumed it was a simple traffic stop, maybe a taillight, maybe nothing. But as she pulled over, her instinct told her something was off. The officer's aggression wasn't normal. His shouts came before she even rolled down her window. His hand hovered near his gun from the first second. She remembered her training. Stay calm, visible hands, no sudden movement. Still, her heart pounded, not from guilt, but from the heavy awareness that a wrong assumption could end her life. The body cam footage, later reviewed by investigators, would show how composed she remained, how she identified herself as a U.S. Army officer, and how none of it mattered. The officer, later identified as Officer Brian Tully, was 27, 3 years on the force, no military background, raised in a small town with little diversity. He'd written online about stolen Valor incidents, bragging about spotting fake vets. To him, seeing a black woman in full dress uniform driving a government vehicle was suspicious. He didn't see Maya Jefferson, the decorated war hero. He saw a stereotype his mind refused to let go of. That's where the story and the tragedy began. When Officer Tully pointed his weapon, Maya felt her training collide with terror. Her voice was calm, but her pulse raced. "My ID is on the dashboard," she stated. Clear, steady, factual. He ignored it. Instead, he circled the SUV, his weapon trembling. "Fake uniform," he muttered under his breath, loud enough for his dash cam to record. probably trying to steal Valor or impersonate an officer. Maya's mind spun. She knew how fast misjudgment could turn fatal. She'd seen it overseas, a young soldier panicking, pulling the trigger before thinking. She also knew that as a black woman, her margin for error was microscopic. "Hands on your head," he screamed. She obeyed. Then came a command that burned her soul. "On your knees." The gravel dug into her stockings as she knelt, her metals glinting under the sun. Cars slowed. People watched. Some recorded. The humiliation pierced deeper than any battlefield wound. Within minutes, backup arrived. 2 more officers. One approached hesitantly, recognizing the patches on Maya's uniform. His expression shifted, confusion replacing suspicion. "Sir," he whispered to Tully, "that insignia, it's real." But Tully brushed him off. "Nah, these scammers buy that stuff online." He walked up to Maya again. "If you're really military," he said, "prove it." She looked up, eyes steady, voice shaking. "Call Fort Belvoir. Ask for Major General Maya Jefferson." He didn't. Instead, he handcuffed her. It wasn't until a bystander, another soldier in plain clothes, stepped out of his car and demanded to know what was happening that things began to unravel. He identified himself as a captain stationed at Fort Belvoir and immediately recognized her. His voice trembled as he shouted, "Sir, that's a major general." Everything stopped. The silence that followed was the loudest sound of all. Tully froze, his gun halfway back to its holster. The other officers stepped back. And in that stillness, Maya's tears began to fall, not from fear, but from the weight of betrayal. She had fought for her country, buried her friends beneath folded flags, and now, on her way to represent the U.S. Army at the Pentagon, she was on her knees, treated like a criminal in uniform. News of the incident spread rapidly once footage surfaced online. Within hours, it ignited a national firestorm. Hashtags flooded social media. Hashtag Major General Jefferson. Hashtag stolen respect. Hashtag black while serving. The public saw the footage. The calm woman in uniform. The young cop's reckless aggression. The disbelief in his voice. And across America, people began asking a haunting question. If even a major general isn't safe, who is? The investigation that followed was swift but painful. The department tried to downplay it, claiming a misunderstanding, unclear identification, and officer safety concerns. But the video told a different story. It showed Maya standing tall despite being humiliated. It captured the trembling in Tully's hands as he called her fake. It recorded his refusal to check her credentials. Within 72 hours, the Secretary of Defense issued a public statement praising Major General Jefferson's composure under unjust duress. The Army opened its own inquiry. The President himself reportedly called her privately to apologize. But no amount of apology erased the image that burned into America's conscience. A black woman in uniform, kneeling before the gun of someone she had sworn to protect. At the press conference that followed, Maya stood silently at the podium, her uniform still bearing the faint marks from gravel and dust. Cameras flashed. Reporters waited. And then she spoke, not with anger, but with unbreakable calm. She said she did not want vengeance. She wanted understanding. She wanted Americans to confront the invisible war. Not the one fought abroad, but the one fought daily in streets, offices, and hearts. Respect, she said, should not depend on what color skin wears a uniform. Her words echoed through every major network. Schools discussed it. The military issued new training protocols about racial bias. Police departments reevaluated procedures. Officer Tully was suspended, then charged with assault and misconduct. In court, his defense attorney argued fear and confusion. But even his own department admitted his fear was racial, not situational. When the verdict came, guilty on multiple counts, Maya didn't celebrate. She just sat quietly in the courtroom, her hands clasped. Justice, she knew, wasn't about punishment. It was about awakening. Months later, Maya returned to duty, but things had changed. Not just in her, but around her. Across military bases, soldiers, black, white, Latino, Asian, began wearing wristbands that read, "Respect all who serve." A movement born from her humiliation had turned into a message of unity. She began speaking at schools, police academies, and leadership seminars, not as a victim, but as a mirror. Her message was clear. Bias isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers through assumptions. The video of her encounter continued circulating, now used in training programs across the country. Some said it opened their eyes. Others said it forced them to confront their own prejudice. For Maya, healing came slowly. The memory of gravel under her knees lingered, but so did the letters from young women who wrote, "Because of you, I joined." Officer Tully, after serving his sentence, publicly apologized. In a televised interview, he admitted, voice cracking, "I saw her skin before her service. That's on me." Maya met with him once, privately, years later. She didn't do it for closure. She did it because her faith demanded grace. She told him, "We can't change what we refuse to face." When she retired from active service 2 years later, thousands gathered at the Pentagon lawn. The same gravel that once bruised her knees now crunched under boots of soldiers who saluted her, one by one. As she walked to the podium for her farewell speech, the air was silent with respect. She looked over the crowd, soldiers, officers, civilians, even a few police chiefs, and said, "The battlefield is not always overseas. Sometimes it's within us, between fear and understanding, between judgment and truth, and we must win that battle, too." The crowd stood. Tears fell. Flags waved. And somewhere deep inside, Maya Jefferson felt peace. Not because justice had been served, but because her pain had birthed progress. Her story became more than a viral video. It became a lesson in America's conscience, a reminder that patriotism isn't a color, and that the uniform means nothing if a nation defends for its equality. As the camera faded on her final salute, her medals shimmered beneath the sun. Symbols not just of battles fought abroad, but of wars survived at home.